Hello everybody, today we will be making Bolani, and for those of you that don't know what that is, which I'll understand if you don't, it's an Afghan style flatbread that is stuffed with something on the inside, and mine will be a choice of vegetables. So to begin making the flatbread, we will need 1.5 cups of flour as well as 1 teaspoon of salt. Be generous with the salt because it does help to amp up the flavor, especially because this flatbread is very simple. It primarily uses 2 ingredients and optionally is the olive oil. So here I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of olive oil and half a cup of warm water. We're going to give that a mix. We're not adding in a lot of water because we are making a flatbread, not focaccia, so you don't need that much water. However, you can add in flour in increments of a tablespoon if you feel like your dough is a little bit too wet. Mine was a little bit too wet here, but that was fine because I wanted to add in some wheat bran as well. So to that we are adding in a quarter cup of wheat bran. This is optional. You do not have to add wheat bran. I just like to find ways to make my meals a little bit healthier. Wheat bran helps to add some fiber, and we love fiber. Anyway, after ensuring that that is well incorporated, you're going to let your dough rest for about 15 minutes, and then while that's happening you can now cut up and prep your vegetables. So I am making a vegetable stuff with shallot, radishes for the color. I needed to use them up, otherwise they are very random things to add in, as well as some green pepper and some aubergine, and then lastly I'll be adding in some spinach and mashed potato. You can add in whatever fillings you want to add. It's your choice. I just think that these fillings are delicious, and also these are the vegetables I had on hand. So yeah, just add in your vegetables, add in your choice of spices, and then clap and fry. You'll see how easy this is. This is not necessarily a recipe. I won't call it a recipe per se. It's really just a use up what's in the fridge kind of meal, but it's fine because it was still equally as delicious. Just make it the way you want to. After frying my onions and radishes for about 3 minutes until they're translucent, I added in my spices, which included 1 teaspoon each of mustard seeds, thyme, white pepper, cumin, and half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. I then stirred that around just to ensure that most, if not all, the spices got the heat so that they can temper nicely to produce a nice layer of flavor for our dish. And then I added in the rest of my vegetables, which were half a green and red pepper, as well as 3 sliced up mini aubergines. If you want, you can add in mushrooms as well instead of aubergines. I had aubergines, so I used up aubergines. Otherwise, I've made this recipe before with my brown mushrooms as well. And after giving that a mix, you are then going to close your pot so that the vegetables can sweat a bit and cook nicely. But before that, I added in about a tablespoon or 2 of water so that the heat can evaporate and cook the vegetables, and can basically steam. Basically, that's what we're trying to do. And while your vegetables are cooking up, we are then gonna deal with the flatbread part of it. And for that, we're just gonna be rolling out our dough. I'm dividing this into 4 here, not because this only makes 4 bolanis per se. It actually makes 8, but each piece that I am gonna be using here will be divided into 2, so it makes 8. Otherwise, if you have a very large non-stick pan, then you can use 4. You can divide it into 4 and then just do it that way, but I do think the smaller sizes do also look prettier. Anyway, you're gonna roll out your dough into a nice shape, like an overly rectangular shape. The idea here is that it should be rolled out enough so that you will be able to divide that into 2. Just make sure that your rolled out dough is about 8 inches wide, because if it's wider than that, the dough might be too thin to actually hold the filling, and if it's thicker than that, it might take much longer to cook, and you don't want that because it is flatbread after all. Anyway, shout out to my rolling pin, my makeshift rolling pin that doubles up as a water bottle. If you don't have a rolling pin, don't limit yourself. You can still find wonderful recipes to make instead. I just wanted to say that. Anyways, after about 7 to 10 minutes, your aubergine should be cooked enough and has absorbed all the wonderful flavors. Oh gosh, I love aubergine. I just love it for that reason. Anyway, I'm adding in my spinach now. This is about 3 cups of chopped spinach. you can add in less, you can add in more. Like I said, you can make it however you like in terms of what you put in as a filling. I just wanted to add in some aubergine and then some spinach for the greens, and because I love spinach. And then on top of that, I'll also be adding in some potato to make it easier to mash. And commonly adding in some potato is one of the ways to make this, where you just add in potato with scallions and some spices of your choice if you want, most likely some salt. Here I'm adding in some sweet potato and white potato mixed together because I like the sweetness, and I like white potato, and like I love potatoes. Okay. Yeah, like I said, commonly they just add in potato, mashed potato with scallions and very few spices and olive oil and garlic, and then add that in. I've seen variations with mashed potato as well, but like I said, you can add in whatever you want. So here is my spicy aubergine, spinach and potato filling. It's so delicious. Oh gosh. Anyway, I added in 2 to 3 tablespoonfuls of my mixture. You don't want to add in too much, like I said, otherwise it makes it a bit harder to close it, because you do want to close it. But anyway, 2 to 3 spoonfuls must do you well. After doing that and spreading it evenly to make a nice even flat layer, as flat as you can get it, we are then going to close it and seal it with a fork. You don't have to seal it with a fork, you can just close it. I just didn't want it to any of the filling to fall out, so yeah, this is just my own variation. I'm sealing it with a fork because it makes it easier, and also it helps to add a little cute pattern. After sealing it nicely, I then cut that in half. As you can see, that's what I was saying when I was saying these actually make 8 and not just 4 bolanis. And then you put it in a non-stick pan. Cook for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side until golden on medium to low heat, and then plate and serve up. These are really delicious if you make a traditional yogurt sauce as well. That's how they make it in Afghanistan, but I didn't do that. Instead, I had a tomato relish that I dipped my bolanis into. It was so good, so good, but on their own they're also still good. Yeah, just look how delicious that looks. Please look at that, just look at that. And to think that this actually took very minimal ingredients and minimal effort as well. You didn't have to let it rise for 2 hours. You didn't have to knead for 10 years, you know guys. I say explore other cuisines, make your life interesting. Don't just make rice and cabbage, please. You can make your food much more interesting if you just looked up what other people are eating. Foods around the world, like food. Wow. Anyway, I definitely enjoyed these. I hope that you guys also try and make them. Very delicious.